Alright, let's talk about autocracy. It's a big, slightly intimidating word. Sounds like the name of a Decepticon. And honestly, that's not entirely wrong. An autocracy is a system of government. One person, the autocrat, holds all the power. Think of it like a group project. One person decides they are the group. One person decides they are the project. One person decides they are the final grade. Everyone else provides snacks and stays quiet. This ruler has absolute, unchecked authority. No elections to vote them out. No parliament to say, hey, maybe that's a terrible idea. No nosy journalists without risking a one-way trip to a re-education camp. This isn't new. Historically, it looked like kings, emperors, czars, pharaohs. They often claimed divine right. Today, autocrats might not wear crowns. They might call themselves president, chairman, supreme leader. Different titles, same principle. One person calls all the shots. Power is intensely centralized. Not distributed like in a democracy with checks and balances. Executive powers, legislative powers, judicial powers, all stuck in the same pocket. The leader can make laws, interpret laws, enforce laws, like someone changing board game rules to always win. So yes, a one-man show running a whole country. The script is whatever the star says that day. The audience is not allowed to leave. The autocrat is the director. The autocrat is the lead actor. The autocrat is the only critic that matters. Final say on everything. Foreign policy. Final say on everything. Public statues. Spoiler, statues are usually of them. This concentration of power shapes every part of life. We'll get into that next. Now, you might be thinking, okay John, fascinating stuff, but I live in a country where I can vote and complain about the government on Twitter without being hauled off in a van. Why is this my problem? And that's a fair question. It's easy to look at autocracies as something that happens over there, a political drama playing out in faraway lands with names that are hard to pronounce. It's tempting to just switch the channel and go back to watching videos of cats falling off furniture. But here's the thing. Understanding autocracy is more important now than ever, and not just for the people living in one. Autocracies don't exist in a vacuum. They are part of our interconnected world. The decisions made by an autocrat in one country can have massive ripple effects across the globe. They can start wars that create refugee crises, manipulate global markets, and disrupt supply chains for everything from oil to the microchips in your phone. An autocrat's sudden whim can impact the price of gas you pay at the pump, or whether you can get that new video game console for Christmas. In our globalized world, what happens in Moscow, Beijing, Tehran doesn't stay there. It lands on your doorstep whether you invited it or not. Furthermore, the ideas and tactics of autocracy are contagious. Authoritarian leaders often learn from each other, sharing strategies for suppressing dissent, controlling information, and clinging to power. They form alliances, support each other on the world stage, and work together to undermine democratic institutions everywhere. This creates a kind of autocracy international, a club of strongmen who have each other's backs. This means that democratic values and human rights are constantly under pressure, and the fight to uphold them is a global one. Ignoring the rise of autocracy is like ignoring a termite infestation in your neighbor's house. Sooner or later, they're going to find their way to your foundations. And finally, and this is the crucial part, the line between democracy and autocracy can sometimes be thinner than we'd like to believe. Democratic norms can erode, freedoms can be chipped away, little by little. Leaders can test the boundaries of their power, silence critics, and demonize the press. Understanding how autocracies are born and how they function is essential for recognizing the warning signs in our own societies. It's like a health class for democracy. You need to know the symptoms of the disease so you can spot them early and do something about it. Because the best way to protect a democracy is to be an informed and engaged citizen who knows exactly what's at stake. So, how does a country end up with a one-person show running the whole shebang? Well, one of the most common pathways to autocracy starts with a national crisis. Imagine a country that's just been through the ringer. We're talking about a devastating war, a catastrophic economic collapse, or years of deep, bitter internal conflict. The government is in shambles. Basic services have disappeared. People are desperate. People are scared. People are exhausted. Life is chaotic. The old rules don't seem to apply anymore, and nobody feels safe. It's the political equivalent of a house burning down, and everyone is standing outside, shivering, and just wants someone, anyone, to put out the fire and tell them where to go. This environment of fear and instability is fertile ground for an autocrat to plant their flag. When people have lost everything, they are often willing to trade abstract concepts like freedom of the press for concrete promises like food on the table and safety in the streets. The slow, messy, and often frustrating process of democratic debate suddenly seems like a luxury they can't afford. They don't want a committee to discuss solutions. They want a single, decisive leader who will promise to fix everything right now. It is in this moment of collective desperation that a charismatic figure can step forward and say, "I alone can fix it." And a shocking number of people will say, "Thank God, please do." Think about post-World War I Germany. The country was humiliated by the Treaty of Versailles, its economy was in ruins due to hyperinflation, and the democratic Weimar Republic was weak and unstable. There were street fights between political factions, and the government seemed powerless to stop the chaos. This created the perfect storm for Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party to rise. They promised to restore Germany's national pride, rebuild the economy, and crush all internal enemies. They offered simple answers to complex problems, and a single powerful leader to follow. People weren't necessarily voting for concentration camps. They were voting for an end to the chaos that had engulfed their lives. This pattern repeats itself throughout history. The Bolsheviks seized power in Russia during the turmoil of World War I and the collapse of the Tsarist regime, promising peace, land, and bread to a war-weary and starving population. They delivered on some of that, but they also delivered a brutal autocracy under Lenin and then Stalin. The crucial takeaway here is that autocracy often isn't born from strength, but from weakness. It's a drastic solution that becomes appealing only when a society is already on its knees, desperate for any kind of salvation, even if that salvation comes with a very, very high price tag attached. Now let's talk about the star of the show, the strongman himself. The rise of an autocrat isn't just about the circumstances, it's also about the sales pitch. Aspiring autocrats are master marketers of a single powerful product: order. They present themselves as the only person capable of taming the wild beasts of chaos, corruption, national decline. Their message is simple and brutally effective. Your country is weak, your politicians are corrupt, your enemies are at the gate. I am strong. I am decisive. I will make our country great again. Sound familiar? It sells. This promise of order is incredibly seductive, especially to people who feel their world is spinning out of control. The strongman points to complex problems: economic inequality, crime, foreign threats, and offers a refreshingly simple solution: give me all the power, and I will crush them. He doesn't bother with nuance or complicated policy papers. He speaks in absolutes. He identifies enemies, both internal and external, and promises to vanquish them. He creates a narrative of us versus them, where us are the good, hardworking, patriotic citizens, and them are the corrupt elites, the treacherous foreigners, or the disloyal minorities who are supposedly ruining everything for everyone. This kind of leader often cultivates a cult of personality. They are not just a politician. They are the embodiment of the nation's will and strength. Their image is everywhere, on billboards, in newspapers, on television. They are portrayed as tireless, wise, and uniquely connected to the soul of the people. This isn't just vanity, it's a calculated political strategy. By merging their personal identity with the national identity, any criticism of the leader becomes an attack on the nation itself. Questioning the supreme leader's policies is not just dissent, it's treason. Look at Vladimir Putin in Russia. He came to power after the chaotic 1990s, a period of economic collapse and diminished national prestige. Putin projected an image of strength and stability. He was the judo-kicking, tiger-tranquilizing, bare-chested horseback-riding leader who would restore Russia's place in the world and bring an end to the Wild West capitalism of the previous decade. He promised order, And for many Russians tired of the uncertainty, that was a deal worth taking, even if it meant sacrificing the fragile democratic freedoms they had only just begun to experience. Sometimes, a country doesn't fall into autocracy. It just never really leaves. In many parts of the world, autocratic rule isn't a new development, but a continuation of long-standing political traditions. For centuries, these societies were governed by monarchs, emperors, chieftains who held absolute power. The idea of a single powerful ruler at the top is deeply embedded in political culture. Democracy, messy debates, compromises, frequent changes in leadership can seem foreign or unstable, even inefficient next to the old familiar way. It's the political version of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. In these places, power is seen as passed down, not won in elections. It might be through a royal bloodline as in Saudi Arabia. The House of Saud has ruled for generations. Legitimacy from lineage and tradition, not popular vote. The state structure is built around the royal family, political life dominated by relationships between princes, sheikhs. A loyal opposition, a free press, can be not just suppressed, but culturally alien. Modern autocrats without royal titles can invent a traditional identity requiring a strong leader. Xi Jinping, for example, draws on China's imperial history to justify Communist Party control. The message, China has unique characteristics. Western-style democracy would cause chaos, undermining millennia of history. Authoritarianism framed as cultural preservation. This reliance on tradition creates powerful inertia. Generations raised in one system struggle to imagine alternatives. The state controls education, the media, reinforcing the idea the system is natural and correct. People are taught to be loyal subjects, not active citizens. Challenging the autocrat becomes a betrayal of ancestors. Transitioning to democracy is an uphill battle against the weight of history.